Hi everyone, and welcome back to Dimensional Wellness. Today, let me do my introduction. Hi everyone, welcome back to Dimensional Wellness. This is DeeDee, and I am so glad to be here with you today, exchanging some energy. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about something really interesting. If you are seeing the numbers 55 or 133, this will probably be significant to you in some type of way. So it's really interesting because yesterday I was sitting in the car and I was like, oh my gosh, like all of my dreams are like talking about me. And I mean, of course, because like they are my dreams. But I just hope that it comes across not as like, I don't know, some people when like I've noticed in certain friendships that I've had in the past, and I've just also come to realize like having Mars in the 11th house, like just, it just seems like long-term friendships are just not really my thing in this life. And, it's fine. Like usually it's like a 5-year kind of mark and then things kind of like, wind down or whatever. And, most of the time I don't stay friends with people longer than 5 years, which I find very interesting. But anyways, in those, friendships, like a lot of the time we're like exchanging information, right? And I have like a lot of air placements. And so my like love language, the way that I connect and talk is sharing ideas, sharing information, and sharing things that I have experienced. And so like when I think about, like in conversation, when I think about, people telling me what they've experienced, like my way of kind of being in solidarity with that is like, oh my gosh, yes. And I've experienced this too. And it's not like, oh, do you know, in my life, I've experienced this as well. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, to add more validation, like you haven't lived my life and I've also had some of the same exact experiences. Because of course, like when you're on the spiritual path and stuff like that, you're always kind of, looking at, the experiences you have and then, just making sure that like you're not just like following this imagination and things like that. So it's kind of my way of being like, I've also had this experience. So for me, it's actually really, it makes me feel good to hear that other people are like, yeah, I've had the same experience. Cause I'm like, okay, now I'm not saying that like, I'm also having the human experience. And so, of course, sometimes like there's like a little bit of something like, oh my gosh, I've never experienced that before. Or like, oh my gosh, like she's experiencing that too. That's very interesting. But it's very brief and very temporary, and then we go about, the thing, right? Because I feel like in the world, there's just like naturally like kind of competitive stuff. You want to be the best at your job, want to be the best at blah, 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 or whatever. But the way that I've started shifting my mindset is to think more about like, oh, okay, cool. That means that I have someone, I'm not alone in it, right? Because, they have that euphemism of like, it's lonely at the top. And it's like, oh no, I'm definitely at the top. And like, oh, okay, my friends are experiencing that too, which means that it's not that lonely at the top. It's only lonely because, we think it is. But I'm like, no, like my friend is top tier too. She's also experiencing these things. So there's solidarity in that. Like, yeah, that's really dope. We should all come together and like figure something out. Right. So anyways, I'm just saying that just to like reiterate again, if, you go through a lot of these videos, like, oh my gosh, DeeDee is talking about her dreams all the time and like, just herself. I am planning to also bring people on. So that's just right now. And really like I was supposed to start a YouTube channel. Like I kid you not, I talked about starting a YouTube channel like way back in college in like 2012, 2013. And Ray was actually reminding me, he was like, you actually been talking about a YouTube channel since we first met each other. And I totally forgot that I was like, what was I even planning to talk about on this YouTube channel? So I'm just bringing that up because, there's a lot of like backed up information. I want to make sure that, the reasons why I'm doing this are clear. Okay. Okay, so let's get into this very interesting story time. I was actually listening to someone else's video about something, and it was in like the synchronicities for today, where someone was talking about the Irish potato famine. And it triggered this memory of a dream that I had. I'm pretty sure this was like a November 2020. So November 2020, July 2020 were like crazy. Now, as far as my astrological chart, I have a lot of my planets in the fourth house, a lot of my planets in the fifth house and the sixth house. So I have my Sun, North Node, Mercury, and something else in the fourth house, which is conjunct my IC. And I'm bringing that up because Cancers, like people who are Cancers, sun signs, and then also Cancer season is always crazy, right? So July is Cancer season. And then, of course, we have the full moon in Capricorn during that. So that is always like a really big time. Now, November, I haven't figured out as much. I'm assuming maybe because I have, so I got Pluto in Scorpio, which a lot of people in my generation have Pluto in Scorpio. And I have it in the third house of Gemini. So I'm assuming, it's like occult connections and stuff like that. But October, November, always pretty Littington as well. So anyways, this was definitely during that November 2020 transit or whatever was going on. I don't know what was going on, but it was a lot. It was a lot going on. So anyways, during that time period, I ended up having a dream where, and it was actually so interesting because I'm trying to think about what I was thinking about before I went to sleep. It was something very specific along these lines. Like, I think I was thinking about, like if we have spiritual parents, where we have like our physical parents and DNA. And I was wondering if we had like spiritual parents and spiritual DNA. Because even recently I had a very strange experience last night where there was like this little boy being, and he looked a little bit older than my middle child. So like, maybe 5-6 years old, something like that. But then it seemed like he was kind of changing to like 10 or 11 too. I couldn't really tell, but I could only see the silhouette. So I couldn't see his features or anything. And he kept putting his hand, like I literally saw him like walking over to me, and putting his hands like on my stomach. But I knew he was like, trying to manifest into my womb. It was very crazy. And I was like, no, I'm not having any more kids. It's a no for me. So I'm not sure what the plan is here, but it's a no. I've caught on to these things. And that'll be a group of dreams that I talk about later about, especially if, you have not been pregnant yet, or if you, have already had children and you're not looking to have any more children, anytime soon, or maybe not again, to like know some of the spiritual markers of when they're trying to give you children, because a lot of things happen in the spiritual realm and the dreams and the astrals before they actually manifest in physicality. So that's another reason why I'm like doing these dreams and everything, to also, kind of hope that you also see some of the experiences you've had and to put them into a place and give some more connotation, give us some more information, some more viewpoints on how things work out, so you can consciously and subconsciously be much more informed on how the spiritual realm interacts with the conscious realm. And it's crazy because there are certain like text and things that I have read before, and I'm like, there's no way that that's possible. But as you get deeper into reality, you start to see that, some of the people that are talking about these things that sound almost impossible to happen are talking very plainly, and what they're saying is actually what's happening. So anyways, let me go back. Okay. So we're doing relatively good. We're like almost 10 minutes in. Okay. So in this dream, it actually started off where I was I actually had an identical twin sister. And it's very interesting because, like, throughout life, I always told people, like, man, it would be so much better if I had a sister. And technically, I do have sisters, technically speaking. And that's, like, a lot to talk about, but technically I do. But it wasn't until I had this dream here where I understood what I was talking about. Because it wasn't just a sister, it was like a specific sister, a specific personality. Not like a sister I'm fighting with, but I always felt like I had a reflection of myself. And so in this dream, I had an identical twin sister, and we were holding hands. And when we're holding hands, I felt this like closeness that I have not felt. And I knew it. Like, I didn't know it consciously in this life, but I was like, I have a twin. And I am like doing this life without my twin. And, you know, on a certain level, it's bothersome, because I know that if I had this level of support, the person that I would be much different. And I also kind of feel like that's probably also why, like, I just don't have like super long-term friendships over like 5 years. Because I think somewhere, you know, maybe that sister is like, no. So anyways, I'm holding hands with this sister, and like, I remember her, I know her. It's not like I know exactly who she was. Now, the interesting thing is that this sister had a lot of like scarring on her face, which I thought was very interesting. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later when we talk about doppelgangers. So anyways, we're holding hands and we started walking. So we're like in this void space. Okay. So we start walking like kind of down this void space, which kind of turned into like this void tunnel, I would say. Or like a void hallway, I guess. And as we're walking down it, we ended up coming into this light. And as we came into this light, we ended up somewhere in Europe in like the 1300s or 1200s, or it was something like that. It wasn't too far back, but I think it was definitely 1200s or 1300s in Europe somewhere. And it was so crazy because we knew that we were like in the midst of an interactive memory. So when I'm calling it interactive memories, that is a memory of, you know, the past, quote unquote. But there are certain things that you can do that if you do too much, you can retroactively change the past if you do too much stuff. So there's some leeway. Sometimes when I'm in these interactive memories, you know, people can see me and sometimes they can't. So anyways, we're in this interactive memory, and there was, we were standing on this grass in this very, very fancy European home. It was like a countryside kind of home. Now, it's definitely giving me like royal family kind of vibes. I don't know which one it was right now. But as we're kind of like walking around the property, we're like, whoa, why are we here, right? Because we're both phenotypically, obviously, African American. And this was obviously like an English countryside or something. But it wasn't, you know, it was also like some type of like royal household or something like that. And so there's like this couple, and we immediately knew that it was our parents in this lifetime. So my biological parents in this lifetime, that they were, this was a past life where they had lived together as a couple. Well, let me make sure I'm saying that correctly. Not lived together, because on this particular day, our biological father was courting our biological mother. Okay. And so we were looking at each other in shock, which now that I think about it was really shocking, because I didn't know that she knew about my experiences in this life. But we were both like immediately shocked because our father was courting our mother. And even though they were in different bodies, we knew exactly who they were. And he was definitely like this blonde-haired Casanova type of energy. And she was kind of like this blonde woman, you know, I want to call her like a sheep maiden or something like. maybe sheepish, I guess. I don't know, but definitely green, a maiden type of energy. She definitely, and they were like sitting at this table that for some reason, I haven't really watched Breakfast at Tiffany's, but it reminds me of Breakfast at Tiffany's. I don't know. Maybe I'll watch the movie. But I feel like there's an opening scene, maybe I've seen like the opening scene of it, and like there's like women sitting at like this white kind of tea table with two white chairs. I don't know if that's a thing, but I feel like it is. Oh, it's 1:47. But yeah, they were sitting at this thing and they were kind of having like a tea date kind of. And he was like trying to romance her and she was blushing. And we just looked at each other because it was just like so weird. Like, I don't think we ever contemplated that they could have had a past life together. And so we kind of looked at each other. We're like, well, then how did they get to where they are now then? And so we ended up kind of like zooming out of this, like walking backwards, and we zoomed out of this memory. And then we ended up in the void space again, but this time we ended up walking into like not a memory, but like like an overlay of memories in the void space. So I don't know if we couldn't recreate the memories because it was so many different people. But this is literally what I saw. I kid you not, this is literally what I saw. So we were standing next to each other and we were at the back of a huge group of people that we understood were people who were suffering from the Irish potato farm. Potato famine. Irish potato famine. Yeah, let me see what year that was. Okay, 1842 to 1852, Ireland suffered a period of starvation, disease, and immigration that became known as the Great Famine, yeah. And I don't know, because I'm like, this person had to be a real person. Rumple. Okay, I mean, he had to be a real person. Okay, so, originally published in 1812. Okay. So they were going through the Irish potato famine. And we saw pretty much, and I kid you not, pretty much most of our family on one side in this Irish potato famine. And everyone was sickly, like most of all of our family. It was actually crazy because I don't think that we also realized that we had come from a family that was pretty much intact in past lives. Like sometimes in family, there's, one or two people that you have a past life with and stuff, but we realized that like a lot of our family members we have past lives with, and we were also all family in very similar dynamics in a past life as well. And so we were kind of looking at them and they're going through this, famine and stuff like that. And there was a gentleman somewhere that people were saying that you could go to him and he would help you out during this time period, that he would help your family to get on their feet and survive the famine and not starve. So as a family, they collectively went to where this guy was, and I can't exactly tell where he was because, like I said, we're in the void, so we couldn't see like the landscape and everything, but we could see the people and we could see their interaction with this person. So we couldn't see like the surrounding scenery, but we could see like what they were talking about, hear what they were talking about, and then saw when they walked up to this energy, okay? So when they walked up to this man, and he was a man, so I don't know the story behind it, but he was definitely a man. And we understood him to be Rumpelstiltskin. And I believe that they were calling him something similar to Rumpelstiltskin. So Rumpelstiltskin wasn't his like historical name, but it was something that was very similar to that. But when he said it out loud, we instantly knew that this was Rumpelstiltskin. And so when it was their turn, because it was kind of like there were families that were going up to him, and he looked like, from what I understood, he kind of looked like maybe he was standing like, in a circle of people, like kind of a little bit elevated. And people were kind of coming to him, in groups, and he would point out the group and ask what they needed and what they were willing to give in order to not starve. So this was some type of contract that they had to get into with him. So we understood that he was some type of magician or something like that, some type of wizard, some type of sorcerer that they were going to get help. And he was just kind of out in the open from what I understood. Like the way they were interacting with him didn't seem like they were knocking on a door or something like that. It seemed like he was out in the open. And so anyways, he was helping some of the other families, and then he got to our family. Now, I don't remember actually seeing me and my twin actually in this lifetime actually with the family, which I feel like is important. We were not a part of the family at that time period, but we knew that we were going to be with them after this time period. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe we became a part of the family because of this situation. Like, that's kind of what I'm thinking about now, is maybe we showed up after the situation because it was going to take them in a bad direction. So anyways, they get up there, they talk to him, and he says, like, for your family, it's very easy. All you have to do is eat some meat. And it seemed like, like a simple thing, but he was like, I'll take one of your children. So whatever baby was coming next in the family, he would be able to spiritually bind himself to for whatever reason, which I still haven't really figured out. And I'm hoping it wasn't us, these kids, but could have been, how the reality works. And he was like, I'll take, your first child. And then for you, the only thing that you have to do in exchange after that is to eat meat. Now, the reason it was such a big deal because they were going to be leaving Ireland. We also knew that they were going to be leaving Ireland, and I believe that they were going to have to migrate to Scotland. I believe that was the succession of it. I'm not exactly sure. And that I'm going to get into that in a second as to why. Okay, right? Because when you make deals with people, it hardly ever goes how you want it to go, right? Because obviously they were trying to see how they could, get food and things like that without having to leave, but they would end up having to leave anyway. Okay, so it's a tricky deal, and it always is a tricky deal, but whatever. So anyways, the reason why it was a hard decision for them to make is because there was something within our family that we didn't eat meat. And it wasn't like a religious thing. It was something about like a bloodline thing where our bloodline was, it felt like a long time ago where we just were not to eat meat. It was not a part of our family belief system. We ate from the earth, roots and fruit and things like that, but we were not meat eaters. And like I said, it was something that was about that bloodline specifically, like something that had been passed on generation to generation to generation, that we do not eat meat. And so when he said that, all you have to do is eat meat, again, me and my twin looked at each other and were like, whoa. And we immediately were like, okay, that's where the downfall started, because we were not supposed to eat meat. We weren't supposed to take part in that. And so they came together and they decided that they were going to do it. And so they became meat eaters. And so, of course, right? Of course, then you make this deal with him about eating meat to save you from this temporary situation. It still does not, let's say, like, justify what you are not supposed to do as a family. And that's why this deal did not go through and it did not work for them. And they still ended up having to leave because they had gone against what the bloodline said. And the bloodline said that you don't eat meat. So Rumpelstiltskin at that point did not have more authority to give you the authority of generations of things to eat meat, even though you weren't supposed to eat it. So that deal went splat. And they still ended up having to move, I'm pretty sure, to Scotland. That's where they ended up. Now, the interesting thing is that after that dream, I ended up seeing her again, and we ended up connecting, and we just stayed just holding space for each other for a period in time, which was really, really reassuring and everything like that. And then when I woke up, it was very interesting. When I woke up, I I remembered that I had these strange experiences, and both of these experiences have happened with a particular family member, okay, around a particular family member. So the first time, it wasn't from this direct family member, but it was in an area that this family member was in. And then the second time, it was directly from this family member. So I used to live somewhere else, and probably in a different video, I'll probably say it. For whatever reason, I feel like I want to keep it a little bit incognito right now. But I used to live somewhere else, and we lived in this other place. There's one time where this... at the school that I went to, there's this guy that I was friends with, and he came up to me and he was like, you were acting so weird at the soccer game last night. And I looked at him and I was like, what are you talking about? Because in middle school, I used to play a lot of sports, but I wasn't on the soccer team because I had gotten in trouble for getting C's on my report card. And then lying about it, I ain't gonna make it seem like it was just the C's, but I got C's, and like I wasn't really allowed to make C's. I got in trouble for C's, and I really wanted to stay on the soccer team. And so I tried to like hide the report card or whatever. And I ended up getting in trouble, so I wasn't on the soccer team at that time. I had been grounded from it. And so anyways, he was like, I saw you on the, he was like, I saw you at the soccer game, and like I was waving to you and laughing and like trying to get your attention, and you were like ignoring me. And I was looking at him and I was like, Dalton, what are you talking about? Which is very interesting because I think he also had a last name similar to mine. And there's one other person when I was like in elementary school who had a similar last name to mine. These are both white people too. So anyways, I was like, Dalton, what are you talking about? And he was like, yeah, I saw you playing soccer yesterday. And he was like, you're playing for the opposite team, which I thought was weird. But I was trying to talk to you to like see why you were playing for the opposite team and like get your attention, but you wouldn't talk to me. And I was like, that doesn't even make sense. And like, why would I be playing on the other team? And like, you're trying to talk to me and nobody is, and I'm not paying attention to you. I'm like, it wasn't me. He was like, I know it was you. And I was like, no, it wasn't me. And then I was talking to him and I was like, if it was me, other people would have like noticed it was me too. And they would have tried to talk to me and it would have been like a whole thing. And he was like, yeah, I was wondering why nobody else like was paying attention to the fact that you were over there playing. And I was like, because it wasn't me. So, of course, at that age, like, none of this is even in my world of comprehension. Like, I hadn't even heard of a doppelganger or anything. I just thought that, it still could be that it wasn't actually me. It could also be that. But when I'm telling you about this next experience, this is the experience that I think about when I'm like, oh, maybe this is what was going on. So I didn't really think too much of it. I was just like, that's wild. But I think he told me that like one more time that year where he saw me somewhere and he could have sworn it was me. And I was like, it wasn't me. So I have a family member who moved way away from home. And she called me one day and she has her own personal experience with this, but she called me one day and she was like, you are not going to believe what I just saw. And I'm like, what did you see? And she was like, I was in the grocery store and I swore that I saw a girl that looked exactly like you. And she was staring at me and she had scars in her face. That's how I knew it wasn't you. But she's like, she looked exactly like you. And I knew it wasn't you because you don't live where, like, I don't live where she lives. And we're both spiritually in tune. So we've had crazy experiences. And so we're like, but some people, when they haven't gone through like a lot of really crazy spiritual phenomenon, like something that obviously don't make sense, they're still going to try to rationalize it and be like, well, obviously it's this thing that definitely doesn't make sense, right? But when you've experienced a lot of things that, shouldn't technically be happening, you don't tend to rationalize it as much. You're like, okay, it's just something that I have not come across yet. And so she was like, it looked exactly like you. And she was like, she looked a little bit, darker in energy, but she had a lot of scars on her face. And I was like, what? Now, the interesting thing is that I have been studying about doppelgangers. I've been studying about Kifo pairs, which is where, you know, I guess it could be also the concept of like the Ba and the Ka. But when I saw this other version of myself, well, this identical twin, I knew that she could be seen as a reflection of me, but she was also her own being. So, and this wasn't like an alter ego. It wasn't a mirrored version of myself. This was a twin of mine. We were the same soul, but split. And so, we had everything very similar up to a certain point. And then it was almost like our spirits diverged. And so we split into different embodiments of consciousness, I guess. But she was not a reflection of me. This was not just my shadow. This was my twin. And so it's very, very interesting because I started going really deep into doppelgangers. And it was actually very interesting how many ghost stories actually talk about doppelgangers as well. And when people talk about that, they feel like they have a reflection, or people have seen you multiple different places, and you know that it's not you, that it could be this doppelganger, which maybe sometimes the doppelganger is an identical twin. And I kind of figured that it was going to be something crazy like that because like I kid you not, every single pregnancy that I've had, and I have had a couple of miscarriages. Every pregnancy I've had a dream that I was having twins. And like I tell Ray every time, I'm like, this one's going to be twins. This one's going to be twins. I just knew I was having twins. Because every baby I had, there was a dream of them having a twin. And sometimes it was identical twins. But especially the girls, with both of the pregnancies, I had dreams of twins. And then both of the girls' pregnancies, I actually believed that I miscarried them. And then I later came to understand that I miscarried their twin. And so for each of the twins, I did a little something because I know that they are in the spiritual realm. And so everyone, the boys, they have fraternal twins, which I thought was interesting. So there was, because even when there was like the identical twin dream that I had, it was two boys, but that turned out to be one of my daughters. And then I ended up miscarrying one of her, what I believe. I don't have, definite proof that that's what happened. But I'm pretty sure intuitively that's what happened, that I miscarried a twin. And so it was very interesting too because I ended up getting a reading from a woman who is initiated into the Voodoo tradition. And so when she gives you a reading, she lets you know like some of the Voodoo deities that you could be connected to. And she let me know right off the bat, she was like, you are really heavily connected to your ancestors. You are on a path of connecting ancestors. And that's pretty much what I found out in QHHT too, where they let me know that, my purpose in this life is very different than what my soul's desire is. And they're like, your purpose has already been fulfilled. It had a lot to do with ancestral karma. And so the purpose has already been fulfilled. And so now it's really just what you want to do, your soul desire. And that, there's not as heavy conditions or things like that as a purpose. And so she was like, pretty much, ancestral stuff. And she was like, you are definitely connected to my mom, Brigitte. She has been walking with you, which is funny because I have a family member whose name is a variation of Brigitte. And so when I told her that, we both laughed, and I was like, well, that makes sense because I have a family member who her name is a derivative of Brigitte. And so she said that she's been walking with you since birth, and then she said you are also a part of Marasa Jomeyon, which is the Marasa of two, which is the divine twins. And so then I told her, I was like, that's so wild because I've always felt like I had a twin. And every pregnancy I've had, I felt like I was having twins. And so that's what I wanted to share today. I thought that would be really interesting to share. And of course, like always, like I said at the beginning of this video, I would absolutely love to hear about your experiences too. If you've had similar ones, maybe you're connected to Mirasa Toi, which I've also heard that, it's like the divine twins, and then the child that comes after those twins is the most powerful one. So I don't know how it works, if, that twin, the two twins are not born earth side, if one is left in the spiritual realm. And then actually, my husband and one of my family members, they both were supposed to be twins, and both of those twins also unfortunately passed in utero. So kind of when I had that, which are like the two closest people to me, I just kind of figured that I probably had a twin that I didn't know about. And I've not gotten physical confirmation on that. But that's something that I just know to be true. So anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about today, you guys. Let me know about your experiences. That's what I was saying, like with the divine twins, that the third child after that is supposed to be the most powerful. Did I say that? I think I did. So if you're part of the Mirasa Toi, which is usually where it's two twins that are earth side, and then the third one is in the spiritual realm, or the child, even if it's a single child that's born after the twins, is the most powerful one, spiritually speaking. So if you are connected to Mirasa Toi, I would love to hear about that as well. And there's also this thing that's coming up in my head, and I don't know what it is. But it's coming up in my head, and I'm probably going to say it incorrectly because I don't know what it is. But it's something called Demphagip, I think. That's coming up. So that's what I have for you guys today. Make sure that you comment, subscribe, share this video with a friend, especially if they are having similar experiences. I would love to put the pieces together of this very intricate and complex and chaotic puzzle. Putting those pieces together, okay? All right, my friends, that's what I have for you guys today. Bye.